Yeah, hi guys. So we would begin this Ask Me About Anything about RBI Grade B exam session in just 5 minutes. So if you can hear me and tech is working fine, just your comments so that I understand that everything is working fine. So just text me, write some messages so that I understand that it is working fine and we can take it forward. Write some messages so that I understand that. Let's wait for 3-4 minutes and we would start with two questions, right? So can you type what are your expectations from this session so that I can address those expectations and then take it forward? Anyone? I don't see any messages coming here. So can you please not see any messages coming? Not see any messages. Okay. Okay, I think there is some problem in my group chat. Let me see if I can fix it. Just give me a moment. I'll just use my mobile to fix it. Just give me a moment. I'm just checking that how to read the comments. Okay, so I am able to read the comments now. So let me set the agenda of this session. So what we are going to understand are various stages of this exam. So I think most of you would be knowing about the stages, but still I would like to cover the stages of this exam. Then I would go ahead, discuss about uh, why for each phase, right? So we would talk about phase one and phase two, and then about the interview. all the questions you have, right? So let's begin. So this exam, RBI Grade B, generally happens in 3 phases, right? So phase 1 is typical aptitude-based exam. There are 4 sections to it. One is GK. Rest, quant, and verbal are given 30 marks each. And there is a sectional cutoff in this as well. Posting. So so then you are saying, like in social media chapters, what social movement chapter, what can we read and all that stuff. I'll take all these questions, but let me just begin my end my monologue. So in phase 1, what is required is to ace general awareness, or either you ace reasoning and quant, right? So there could be 2 kind of strategies which we have discussed in our blog. So you can look at our blog at prepper.co, right? So that's our new website. So prepper.learnist is the service which we are using, but we are more live on prepper.co, so you can use that website. So essentially, in phase 1, if you can score somewhere between 100 to 110, so try to score between 100 to 110, because sometimes cutoffs could be higher, right? So if you can score between 100 and 110, you can be very well versed that you would be in phase 2. Now phase 2 is a very different ball game, because it's some concrete subjects, right? So there are subjects which are economics, social issues, right? So we would be talking more about these subjects and understand how to take up these subjects, right? We would also be talking about our course in a meanwhile, but let's talk about firstly the core content of these subjects, right? So essentially, if you open the syllabus, it is given that most of the topics are in economic ESI section, is somewhat similar to UPSC syllabus, right? So UPSC paper 3, I suppose, it's somewhat similar to UPSC syllabus. Even some of the portions in finance is similar to some of the sections of UPSC syllabus. So if you are preparing for UPSC, or if you have already prepared for UPSC, then there is definitely an advantage, right? So there would be people who actually can score really high marks in ESI because they have prepared for UPSC, right? So essentially, the difference between a UPSC exam and an RBI exam is UPSC is more about conceptual knowledge, whereas RBI is more about factual knowledge. But you would see that as RBI matures, as the exam matures, as it passes more years, they would ask more and more conceptual questions, right? So in generally there are 2 kind of questions. One are 2-mark questions, and then there is 1-mark question. And the paper is for 100 marks, and around 90 minutes are given to complete this section. Questions from what you have been asking, right? So you, Chinmay is asking me what kind of questions can be expected from social issue sector. So essentially, if you see last 2 years paper, they are not going to ask you sociology. So they have given you a book which is Shankar for psychology, I suppose. You are not required to go through that book. That is for UPSC optional paper, right? You are not required to go through that book. What you are required to go through is the social issues which are currently in news, right? So for example, various social schemes, Ujjwala scheme, for example, Ujjwala scheme, what are the budget spends of Ujjwala scheme, how is Ujjwala scheme doing in the country today, right? So you have to take care of all this stuff. You don't need to go into social theories, because they are not going to ask social theories. It's not an exam of sociology. At the end of the day, it's economic and social issues, right? So economics and social issues go hand in hand, right? So don't bother about reading that book, sociology, right? So the next question, let me see, is so that I can read them free. So they are asking about our course. We would come to our course at the end of this discussion, right? Again, the question is, are you planning for current affairs also? And in our course, we are planning for current affairs, right? So there would be a weekly video which would cover all the current affairs. So we would be covering budget, economic survey, and other weekly affairs in a video. We would also provide a cheat sheets each week so that you have a ready reckoner with you which you can revise, right? So there would be cheat sheets as well. Somebody is asking strategy for phase one. We have very well discussed the strategy for phase one on our blog. So as for me, there could be two kind of strategies. There could be two kind of people. One kind of person is are those, or one group of persons are those who are preparing for UPSC. So they are very well versed with GK. They have devoted huge amount of time in understanding and reading about GK. So for them, scoring more than 65% or 65 marks in general awareness section is really essential. Then there could be people, generally engineers, who have prepared for CAT in some point of time, right? For them, it's essential to do well in reasoning as well as in quant. English in phase one is really easy, right? So English is very easy, and anybody can score if they do really well. If they practice really well, they can score somewhere around 15 to 20 marks in English. So you have to score that 15 to 20 marks in English so that you are far above the cutoff. You cannot take chances in phase one because almost 99.9% students would be gone in that phase, right? So you are not required to at least aim for at least around 110 to around between 100 and 110, and don't aim for somewhere around 90 or 95 because cutoffs could be as high as 110. I remember that in I think in year 2013, the cutoff of phase one was 123, which was pretty high. So cutoffs can be higher as well depending on the kind of paper, right? So the next question is on 50 hours. I guess it won't be enough. In reality, I highly appreciate Ayush sir's teaching style. Please make him share his UPSC current affair classes. So Ayush sir would be taking the current affair classes. So 50 hours is just tentative, right? We would be adding more number of videos if required, and include everything in the form of either videos or PDFs, right? So 50 hours is just tentative. His January, I got 15 plus directly. Okay. Right, so we'll try and see that how more and more videos can be added and how more and more questions can be added. Please elaborate on how to prepare notes. So this is a very important question on how to prepare notes, right? So for somebody who has not prepared for this exam ever, he firstly pick up NCERTs, right? So try to pick up NCERTs, economics of class 11. Portion of economics of class 11 deals with Indian economy. So you would understand various 5-year plans, you would understand agriculture of India, you would understand what is happening in India. So just do it completely, right? And you remember that you won't have time to revise this book again. So make notes, right? From the entire book of NCERT of class 11, revise it into pages, right? So these 20 to 30 pages would be very beneficial for you when you start revising. Then you should pick macroeconomic book of class 12. So there are some important topics which are directly mentioned in the syllabus. So try to do them from class 12 macroeconomic book. If you feel that you are really well versed with NCERTs and there is an interest which you have garnered in economics, only then you prepare for this exam. Otherwise, you would enroll for some courses or you would buy some books, but then you would not be able to give 100% of your effort for preparation. So just see and look at NCERTs. If you think that NCERTs make sense for you, only then go for the preparation. The next step for the preparation would be pick up any good Indian economy book. So there could be few good books. I would name a few. For example, Ramesh Singh could be a good book. Uma Kapila is a good book. Mishra Puri is a good book. In fact, RBI has given a list of books of Indian economy. So you can pick up any book, right? Try to read all those relevant chapters. Don't try to read book from cover to cover. And also make notes, right? So make summary notes. In notes, you should firstly note down the concepts, right? For example, if you are doing fiscal policy, note down what is fiscal policy. Who would, so fiscal policy, in fiscal policy, note down what is the requirement of fiscal policy? That would be mentioned in the book. So note down what is the requirement of fiscal policy. What are the various tools which are used by the government in fiscal policy? So that's how you should go on preparing the notes. Now, after you have a theory portion, keep on adding the current affairs in those notes. That's very essential, because once you have fiscal policy at one place, you would be able to revise it in much more easier way, right? So that's how you go about preparing the notes. The next question is, how can I prepare for English descriptive? So English is very essential, because it also comes for 100 marks. But most of you would actually ignore it, because we focus, when we prepare for any exam, we focus just on gathering information. We don't focus on anything else, but we just focus on gathering information. So English can be improved if you know the fundamental of current affairs, because most of the essays would be based on current affairs. But you also have to have good writing styles of essays, right? And you also have to understand few rules of précis making. So what we are doing in our course is we are providing you we are giving you practice of 6 essays and 6 précis. We would try and include practicing circulars as well. So if you see earlier papers, there were circular and letter writing as well. So you cannot ignore them, because RBI can again bring them back in this year's paper. So we would provide you ample practice. We have really good panel of English teachers who would evaluate it on one-on-one basis and give you a detailed feedback of how to go about improving this. So if you are not joining our course, what you can do is you can pick up essay topics of UPSC, or better still is pick up each editorial of the Hindu, right? Try to firstly make a précis out of it, right? So try to make a précis out of it and see whether you have actually summarized the entire passage really well or not. So once you actually have read the series of news for at least a week or 2 weeks, try to pen down an essay, right? For example, if it's about mental health bill, right? Try to write an essay. What would be the implication of mental health bill in a country like India, right? So, and after you do write an essay, try to compare your notes with what you have prepared from various newspapers, right? It could be from Hindu or Times of India. Just see that whether you are covering all the important points, whether you are making a coherent piece, right? Whether there is an introduction, there is a body 1, there is a body 2, and then there is a final summarization or not, right? So this is how you go about preparing for English descriptive paper. Question is, hi sir, should one go for MBA and appear for RBI grade B, or take a year gap and prepare for it? Does year gap matters in this exam? Are MBA people given more preference? So there is no clear indication that MBA people are given more preference, right? So there is no clear data which says that MBA people are given more preference. In fact, if they are if somebody is given any preference, they would be bank employees, because you would see around 30% of the RBI recruits are working as a PO, or have got their recruitments as a PO. So they are given some kind of preference if we assume that, right? But MBAs are not given any preference. But MBA actually help you in a preparation of 2 portions. One is the finance portion, the other is the management portion, right? So if you are doing MBA, then it would help you in actually fine-tuning your basics of finance and management. So doing MBA could be a good strategy rather than sitting idle for 1 year at home. But then you have to understand that MBA comes at a cost, right? MBA is a very costly course. So you have to just understand that should you invest your money in MBA, or should you invest your energy and time in getting some other job, right? So I would say that it depends on what kind of institute for, and what kind of things are there, right? So it depends on that. So next question is also in derivative chapter, do we need to go into deep? So derivatives is a very, very, very huge subject. Many people do their PhDs in derivatives. You don't need to go into depth of derivatives, because it's clearly mentioned that only basic questions would be asked from derivatives. So you don't need to go into depth of derivatives. We would be covering basics of derivatives. We would cover numerical problems as well from derivatives. To go for derivatives in depth. So there are, for example, butterfly spread. There could be Black-Scholes model. You don't need to cover all this stuff. The other question is facing problems in numericals, best book to prepare. At this point of time is Prasanna Chandra. Do from chapter 2 to 10. You would not be able to cover what is called risk management, but that then you can leave it because there could be one or two questions from risk management which you can conveniently leave. Just understand that you have to score high marks, right? But you don't have to score 100% marks in FM paper, right? So risk management is a very lengthy topic, and if you are not from financial background, I would suggest you leave it. But for numerical portions, do chapter 2 to 10 of Prasanna Chandra. That's a very good book. Your notes. So again, the question: your notes are sufficient, or we need to read books? I think we have conveyed it time and again that no notes are sufficient. You need to read books and you need to read newspapers and magazines, right? So no notes would be sufficient. But what we are trying to do is we are trying to include a lot of current affairs. We are trying to include a lot of things which are required for this exam. But I cannot guarantee that they would be sufficient because RBI can change their pattern anytime, right? But if you actually diligently follow our notes and then read the newspaper on regular basis and perhaps follow one of the books, right? One of the books of Indian economy. How to cover general awareness? Is 6 months of current affairs sufficient? So we can go by the past trend. By past trend, we can see that yes, past 6 months are more than sufficient to read somewhere around 6 to 8 months of current affairs. So is there a problem in audio? I think if there is a problem in audio, just give me some messages. So also in management, it is very difficult to keep the theories in memory. How can we remember all the plethora of theories? So I understand that it's difficult to remember all the theories. I think, and it is just my speculation, that as the exam evolve, they would ask more of case study based question rather than theories, right? So you should make a cheat sheet of all the theories. Hello? So you should make cheat sheet of all the theories and try to remember them. But having said that, I would say that there would be more and more questions which are based on case studies of these theories. One of the most important question: when will the notification come? Honestly, I don't know. I don't know when would the notification come. Most of the speculation says by end of May or beginning of June, right? We don't know, but last year it happened in July, so we can expect any time between June and July. Can a BCom graduate become RBI officer? Who is stopping a BCom graduate becoming an RBI officer? If you prepare well for both the phases and do interviews well, then definitely you can become an RBI officer. How to go ahead with Yojana magazine? Yojana is typically for UPSC. I would not recommend this for RBI. I would recommend a newspaper, right? Better read a newspaper. That would be more beneficial, right? Just read any newspaper. Even the Hindu is not required, honestly speaking, because they are more of a fact-based questions. Any newspaper would cover all the facts. So you can use even Times of India, right? Times of India or the Indian Express. Sometimes people pick up Hindu, but since it's a very dense newspaper, it is difficult for them to go ahead with Hindu in a longer run. Start with a very light newspaper. Already working in PSB as clerk, gave last year paper, fell short by 25 marks in clearing overall cutoff, has cleared JIIB and CIIB. Which books are enough for FM? So I think I've already answered this. Prasanna Chandra because is more than enough. But since you have already cleared JIIB and CIIB, I would recommend that go with JIIB and CIIB books as well. And will you cover RBI current affairs? Yes, we would definitely cover the RBI current affairs as well. Will there test series? Which test series should I opt for? So at this point of time, I cannot say that which test series is the best or which test series would be the best. But for our students, we would be coming up with 4 tests. We would also be coming up with perhaps a separate MCQ course about that. But if need be, we would come up with that. So there are a number of test series which are available. I think one of the better test series for phase one would be from Olive Board, I suppose. How much time is required to prepare if I start today, considering I am working in bank? So considering you are working in bank, I also assume that you have a lot of knowledge of working of financial knowledge of bank, right? So if you use that really well and you dedicate somewhere around 2 to 3 hours, it would take you around 3 months, right? So what we have seen is on a ballpark level, a new person would require around 400 hours to prepare for this exam. But if you are well versed with the concepts, then you would require somewhere around 250 to 300 hours. GIB, CIB books, give it a skip, do Prasanna Chandra, that would help you in a much better way. Please reduce the cost, it's too expensive, around 7K would be best. Cannot do it. We are hiring best faculty for English. Increase your English marks by at least 10 to 15, which would in turn end up call, right? So an English faculty would cost us quite a lot because he would be checking each paper on individual basis and he would be charging us on individual basis. So we cannot do that. Please upload the books we can read and topics we should read from. We can do that in our blogs. So just follow our blogs on prepper.co. We would have a series of blog on what should be covered from which book, how should you go about reading the books, how should you go about reading economic surveys, etc. And that should be put to go. Prasanna Chandra itself is a huge book. For candidate completely new to finance, it's really difficult to follow. Yes, it is a huge book. That's what I'm saying. You don't need to cover the entire book. You just have to cover chapter 2 to 10. And I think so begin with maybe NCERTs, right? So there are accounting ratios in NCERTs. It would be, I think, business accounting book. Try to read business accounting principles. You don't have to read debit what comes in or credit what goes out, those accounting principles. But then there would be some financial principles as well given in NCERT's book. You can start with them. Start with Prasanna Chandra as well. So just see chapter second, right? Go to chapter 2 and see that it's, I think it talks about, let me open the, I have a soft copy, let me open it. So I think I am unable to find that book. Let me open it whenever I find the book. Just give me a moment, I'll find the book. So chapter 2, I think, is about accounting, right? Accounting ratios, if I am not wrong. I'll be more well versed if I am able to find the book. So yeah, I have the book with me, and I have this 7th edition with me. So the content says chapter 2 is about financial systems. So there is direct topic which is mentioned in the syllabus about financial systems, right? So it talks about primary, secondary markets and all that stuff. So you have to read this chapter. It's more of a theory chapter, right? So you just read this chapter. Then the third chapter is financial statement, taxes and cash flows. So if you are you want to cover the numerical portion, this is the chapter again, right? So this is the chapter which gives you about the basis of balance sheet, about the accounting statements in general, right? So this is the chapter which is very important. Then analysis of financial statements. So these two chapters would cover your financial ratios, from which I think 2 or 3 questions came last time. Then financial planning and forecasting, which is chapter 5. You can leave this chapter, though there could be questions from, for example, break-even analysis, which came last year. But still, I would say that since it was just one question, just leave this chapter as of now. Then sixth chapter is very important, time value of money, right? It's very easy to understand. It's just about compound interest, right? So if you have understanding of compound interest, you will be able to very well understand this chapter. Then do chapter 7, which is about valuation of bonds and stocks, right? So this is also important. Then there is a chapter on risks and return, which is also important. Just don't read all the betas and thetas. They are not required. Then chapter 9 is portfolio management. Again, this is not required. It is more of an MBA kind of stuff. Then finally, options and their valuations, right? So you don't need to study options and their valuation from this book. So I would say rather than chapter 9, study till chapter 8, right? So I hope that I have answered the query. I am trader. How much time minimum required? So minimum time required, as I told, is 400 hours, ballpark. So if you can devote 400 hours, that would be more than sufficient. Which topics to focus on? So focus on all the current happenings, political happenings. So for example, all the bills which are passed in the parliament, you should focus on that. You should focus on day-to-day happenings in about RBI, right? What is RBI doing? For example, it increased the reverse repo rate. What is the implication of reverse repo rate and all that stuff? You should keep a note of that, and you should also keep a note of international happenings, right? So all this stuff you should keep a note of. Prepare for current affairs. What are the areas to focus? I think I have already covered this. The areas of focus should be current government affairs, because government do a lot of social activities, right? So there is a subject called ESI, right? Economic and social issues. Government deals with social issues, so you should keep an eye on what is government doing, right? So that's very important. Then you should keep an eye on what is happening in equity markets. For example, you don't need to worry about the stocks coming up and down. You don't need to worry about funded and all that stuff. You need to worry about what RBI is doing, how RBI is changing the policy, how the yield rate of bonds is changing because of that, right? And you should be very clear about the basic fundamentals as well. What all topics should be covered from RBI website? So RBI comes up with monetary reports, right? Monetary committee reports, you should cover that. Then RBI comes up with various circulars from time to time, you should cover that. Which chapters of Prasanna Chandra? We have already covered that. Chapter 2 to chapter 8. Focus on editorials, okay. No, I'm not working with RBI, right? So this is my full-time vocation. I'm reading Business Standard or switch to Indian Express. Any newspaper would do. I would recommend that a business daily would have limited coverage of government social schemes. A general newspaper would be much better. So Indian Express would be much better. Do we have to study from Ramesh Singh, or we can go for some book? If so, which one? So you can study from any book of Indian economy. Ramesh Singh, Mishra Puri, Uma Kapila, any book would do. How is Bharti V. Patnaik? I think it's a good book, but it's slightly complicated. For numerical portion, if you're trying to look, I think Prasanna Chandra is better. I'm referring to the Hindu. Should I refer other business newspaper? Not required. Not required for RBI. To follow any other book other than Prasanna Chandra? No, you would get confused, right? Don't. I would say leave at least leave one or two odd topics. That would not harm you. But if you start reading anything and everything, that would harm you really hugely. Business Standard is good enough. I think editorials of another. So time required, 2 books of phase 1, 3 books of phase 2. Time required 400 hours. Books of phase 1, you don't require any books. You require maybe few YouTube videos. We have curated good YouTube videos on our platform, so you can use them. Books for phase 2, we have already discussed. NCERTs, class 11, class 12 economics. Economics for class 12 should be macroeconomics, not microeconomics. Then there is a book of, I think, business accounting, which you can use for just building your basics. Then there is a book of business studies, NCERT. There is entire chapter of management, which you can use. and then use any book of Indian economy, right? So any book of Indian economy could be Ramesh Singh, could be Mishra Puri, could be Uma Kapila, or any other book of your choice, right? So just these books should be good enough. And then economic survey, budget, and newspaper. That's it. How should I study ESI? So I think already covered ESI with the understanding that you have to clear all basics, right? So there are few basics which you need to clear. For example, you have to clear the basics of national income accounting. You have to clear the basics of fiscal policy, monetary policy, the basics of working of RBI. Once you clear all these, you would be able to understand news in much more better way, right? So any begin with NCERTs again, then go to any book of Indian economy. Most confusing topic. Never get the concept clear, right? So alternate modes of finance are many. There are many things which are happening in alternate source. We would cover this topic in detail. So in nutshell, it could be crowdfunding, it could be B2B financing, then it could be venture funding, it could be these kind of things are covered usually in alternate sources of finance. We would cover this topic in detail in our course. If you just type alternate source of finance, you would get a lot of things. So for example, RBI is coming with a regulation of P2P funding, right? So that becomes important because that's current happening, and that belongs to the topic of alternate modes of finance, right? So just keep an eye on what is happening in Indian startup scene, right? P2P funding is happening, crowdfunding is happening. All this is alternate source of finance, and also see the reaction of RBI, right? So how RBI would do change the things about payment bank, how payment bank would affect the sourcing of funding. Funding could also be microfinancing. What are the regulations on microfinancing by RBI? All this stuff would be covered in alternate sources of finance. So do we need to follow any other book for finance? No, I think we have already covered that. Please tell us the correct approach for finance and management. So finance and management are two separate subjects, right? They have combined it into one paper. So they are two separate chapters. For management, I would say IGNOU notes, if you're preparing on your own, IGNOU notes are more than sufficient. S.P. Robbins, right? Stephen Robbins is a good book, but then it is written from the point of view of teaching MBA grads or business grads. Doing the course, or we are not learning management from the point of view of management grads. So just look at IGNOU notes, or I think there is some Indian author, and Tiwari, I suppose, or Tripathi. I forgot the name of the book. But Principles of Management by this guy is also good. So you can also refer to that book. For finance, I think there are few topics which are economics and not finance. For example, the budget and the inflation. You have to understand the fundamentals of both budget and inflation. Any good book on Indian economy would cover. I think if you look at few good videos of Khan Academy, I'm very big fan of those few videos. Very beneficial to give you a basic idea of what is GDP, what is GNP, how circular flow of money happens, and how inflation affects various sectors. What are bonds? What are bonded? All this stuff is very well covered in by Mr. Salman Khan. So you can go through those as well, right? Numerical portion of finance have to be covered from Prasanna Chandra, and then there are other things which is very general in nature. For example, roles of RBI. Again, this could be covered from any good book of Indian economy. The good newspaper, it would cover economics. Yes, Live Mint is really good. I like the coverage. I like the way they present the news. So it's a good book. Good for monthly GK capsule. So I don't have any favorite sites. I would not recommend any site here. I would say make your own notes from the newspaper. We would be giving a few videos each week for the current affairs, so you can use them. Which book is good? As many questions are asked about the theories. I can bet on this that this year many questions would be asked based on case studies, right? So just understand the theories and see whether you can apply those theories. How will we be able to revise if we subscribe to the video course? For understanding, it's good, but for revision, so we have cheat sheets and PDFs as well in our course. Can you please tell us the content of your course? So we are doing around 50 to 60 hours of videos covering the entire thing: numerical, non-numerical, basic concepts, and current affairs. Then we have few PDFs which would be used for revision, and then we have few cheat sheets which you can print and revise as you move from one place to another. At the end of once you cover the content, we would have few MCQs somewhere in the range of 1500 which you can practice. Finally, we would have 4 mocks. This is about ESI and FM. We would also have practice material for English because English is really important. So we would give you 6 practice essays and six practice presses. We would try to include 1 or 2 circular writing and letter writing as well because RBI can ask for that as well. So these essays and presses would be evaluated by a team of English teachers who are either university professors or are working in newspapers like Times of India. US drops the biggest bomb. Are such news important? So essentially, I don't know. I honestly speaking, RBI can ask you this question as well. But honestly speaking, they are more concerned about things which affect India, right? So they would, for example, last year there were a lot of questions about Brexit, but they were more concerned about what was the effect of Brexit in India. It's okay to just remember tits bits here, but then focus on what are the effect of international affairs on India. Can be part can be done from, I think already covered, business studies book of class 11. I think class 11 or 12, I just forgot. And then right, there is this book by principal, I think either Trivedi or Tripathi. I'll drop in a comment. I'll drop in the name of the book in the comment section as well as in our blog, so you can use that book as well. Where to practice quant? So I think if you have prepared well for SBI PO, quant is good enough. You don't need to score 30 out of 30 in quant in phase 1, right? You have to just, if you're not very good in quant, your strategy should be just to clear the cutoff, which is 7.5, which is 25% of the total score. So what I would suggest is prepare for DI rather than quant, because there would be 2 or 3 sets of DI, and if you can actually crack those sets, you would be very easily able to clear the cutoff of quant. Try to maximize your score in English and general awareness if you are not very well versed with reasoning and quant. Study plan. So study for, I think it depends on your how much time do you have, but it's always better to study for 3 to 4 hours on regular basis. Give at least 1 hour to phase 1. Just try to practice for 1 hour for every day for phase 1. Because if you leave the practice, you would be in soup in at the final day of exam, right? So study for 1 hour for phase 1 definitely, right? Which means practice reasoning and quant and English. Try to make your notes of GA as well, and then study for 2 hours for economics, ESI and FM. Also, at least devote 2 to 3 hours for English in a week, right? So 2 to 3 hours for an English, 2 hours for ESI and FM per day. Weekend should be higher, and 1 hour for phase 1. So that's the brief study plan. How will be the test series in your course? Sectional tests, how to reach for queries, right? So you can email us the queries. We would try, if the query is very conceptual, we would try and make a video out of it. From time to time, we would also try to do private live sessions where we would resolve these queries. So tests, essentially the MCQs would be chapter wise, but we would also come up with 4 tests at the end of the course. Is there any book which covers both finance and management? No, there is no book which covers both finance and management because they are 2 separate chapters. For phase 1, are you providing good practice test? No, we are not providing good practice test for phase 1 because we are more concerned about, we are more concentrated on the content of phase 2. Phase 1, I think if you prepare really well for SBI, PO, and if you have right strategy, you should be good to go. Though there are good test series which are available, you can choose any of those test series. Are you providing any PPTs on concept of, yeah, we are providing detailed videos on concepts like GDP, CPI, WPI, etc. So there will be detailed concepts on it. What should be the strategy for, so last 6 months of GA, you should remember, right? Try to understand important topics like budget, try to understand important topics from Economic Survey of India, and the latest bills, for example, the Motor Vehicle Act, which has been latest of late passed. You should know about details of Motor Vehicle Act. What are the various tenets of Motor Vehicle Act? You should understand that. and what's internationally happening, right? So what's happening in international financial markets, how is it affecting India, and how would it affect, let's say, our growth, right? So most of the questions would be concerned about that, though there would be questions from static GK as well. So there would be questions from books, from authors, from flags of a country or currencies of the country, which I think you would have already prepared SBI or any bank PO exam. Sir, I am very weak in quant. Please tell me how to do better. So if you're weak in quant, don't go into chapters like time, speed, distance, or arithmetic or algebra. Try to focus on data interpretation. There are 2 to 3 sets of data interpretation. Just try to clear the cutoff in quant section, and that could be cleared by just focusing on this thing, just focusing on a DI. Right? Will SP Robbins and T.N. Chhabra. I think that the name of the book was T.N. Chhabra, right? So Principles of Management by T.N. Chhabra. You can use this book. This is a good book, right? So whatever it covers, it's relevant for us. But I think T.N. Chhabra does not cover the entire thing. So you would need SP Robbins. I think IGNOU notes would be better. Six months of current affairs should be are needed. So is there any website for practicing writing skills? Right. We are providing you an opportunity to practice 6 essays and 6 essays, get it evaluated by experts, and then get good enough feedback so that you can improve. Questions like international fundings are important, like AMB investment in India, but aim to newspapers. There are a lot of acquaintances funding at the local level, like so they are not important, right? Past year papers which are sadly not available, you would see most of the questions are concerning the global things, right, which affects the overall growth of India. But then it's some international funding coming from a bank or something like that. They are not that important, but then just make a note, right? Just make a note so that if RBI asks these frivolous questions, you would be able to answer them. What is the notification likely to come? There are rumors and rumors coming around. I think you should focus on your preparation. Start preparing from right now, because I think you would have at max 3 to 4 months to prepare, and at minimum 2 months to prepare. So don't worry about when the notification is coming. Start preparing really well. The question says, can you suggest good phase 1 test series? Simple, I large to real. So I think any test series for SBI PO is good enough. You can buy Olive Board, practice more, anything. I think test book is also coming up with the test series. So anyone would be more than sufficient. XPass, questions are asked only from XPass. Yeah. So just follows last 6 months of XPass, because most of the questions would be asked from them. Make your notes. Why are you always looking for shortcut solutions, right? Make your notes. Try to read newspapers. Make your notes and just revise them. We can provide you shortcuts. Obviously, we would be providing you with videos of current affairs where we would be covering the schemes and act pasts. But then I think it's always good to make your own notes. Of course, we give any IDs, as in someone take the coaching from TimeCat, they will give an ID for which they can log in. So your email ID would be your login ID, right? So you can log in using your email and then start learning. And it's the LMS, so you can log in using your email ID and password, and then you can start learning. There would be a panel where there would be a lot of videos which would be there. Sir, how can we get phase 2 questions? I'll try and get few questions of phase 2 question paper. Right? I'll try and get them. So I think we have covered most of the questions. If you have any other questions, we are still here live till 11. If you don't have any questions, let me tell you a little bit about our course. So the course is prepared by best of the faculties. There is faculty by the name of Ayush Sanghi. He's taking classes in various UPSC study group. He is also an educator on Unacademy, so you can watch his videos there as well. He is specially preparing the material basis RBI guidelines, right? So he's one of the content contributor. Then the other guy is by the name of Mr. Piyush Anand. He has been working with Accenture and dealing with the topics like financial analysis of companies. So he is very well versed with financial ratios, balance sheets, and etc. So he is preparing modules on balance sheet, mutual funds, etc. Then the third contributor is by the name of Samir Singhal. He is a CFA, so he has cleared all his level of CFA. So he's heading our finance department. So he's preparing content of finance. Then management is being prepared by me and Tushar, and English is prepared by there is this guy by name of Arsh. He is working with Times of India, so he is preparing the basic concepts of English for us. Right? So we have a pretty diverse team, unlike various other institutes where it's a one-man show. Right? So there is just one teacher who is doing everything. That's why the quality suffers. As we focus on diverse skills of diverse people. For example, in risk management, we actually asked somebody who is working currently in SBI and he has cleared with CIIB and JIIB to prepare notes for us and prepare those videos for us because we find him really well versed with the concepts. His name is Saurav Sagar. So he actually has prepared those videos for us and they have come up really well. I think we have put in one demo video as well. Just look at that. This is still what should be the strategy for working professional. So I'll take this question in a while. So as I was saying that the course is prepared by best of the faculty. The course is prepared keeping in mind all the various aspects of RBI. We would cover the current affairs. We would focus more on basics because I feel that as exam mature, they would tend to focus more toward basics, right? For example, if it has been 2016 and RBI has changed the reverse repo rate and the bond yield has increased by 20 basis points. So RBI would have asked what was the change of bond yield in April 2016, and the options would be 20 basis point, 30 basis point, 40 basis point, and 50 basis point. You have to tick one of the options, which is a very factual question. But as I see it, now they can ask a question that if increase or decrease in reverse repo rate, what would be the effect on, let's say, opportunity cost of money. So you should understand the concept of opportunity cost of money. So that way a video course becomes much more important because these concepts are better learned through video, right? So we spend somewhere around 2 to 3 days to research for each video and then come up with the 20 or 25 minutes of video, which means that if you just read PDF, you have to read a lot of stuff which we are covering in a video. That's why a video course is much more better than a PDF course. It would help you clear your basics. 25 minutes of watching a video to reading around 2 hours of PDFs because there is a lot of stuff to be read and we are doing all the dirty work for you. We are reading all the stuff and actually bringing the best of the stuff in the form of the videos. So that's about our course. The very important portion which I think I want to cover here is about this thing, English, right? So English is a descriptive paper and it's a make or break thing, right? So since most of us are focused on just gathering knowledge, we don't practice English. We are providing you an opportunity to practice 6 essays, 6 presses, a circular and letter so that you are well prepared for English and you increase your score by 10 to 15 marks, which is a make or break thing. How useful is regularly visiting PIB site for ESI? It's pretty useful, so you can refer PIB sites. Many successful candidates has recommended it. Is it waste of time and effort? No, it's not at all waste of time and effort. But then you should not. So what happens is when we go on reading stuff online, we get swayed away. For example, if we are reading Wikipedia, right? So we go to links from one link to another link, from another link to another link, and we end up wasting a lot of time. You should be focused about preparing what is mentioned in the syllabus, right? You should not just go from one link to another, right? So that's it. Second, MCQs for ESI. At this point of time, we would not be able to service these kind of requests because we are more focused toward delivering quality to all the students who enroll for the complete course. Everyone has his or her own strategy, but still what should be the strategy for working professional, especially when you are new to the subjects like finance and ESI. So Arun, this is question by Arun. What I would suggest is don't just try to actually remember all the facts and figures. Try to clear the basic fundamentals. So basic fundamentals can be cleared by watching videos at Khan Academy, or watching our videos, or watching videos from any good source, right? Because I think books are pretty vicious and it's very difficult to clear your concepts using books. So videos comes pretty handy. To clear your concepts within 2 or 3 weeks, read NCERTs. If you want to clear your basics, read NCERTs. Try to cover NCERTs in 3 to 4 weeks, or rather 2 to 3 weeks. Try to look at videos, and then devote at least 3 to 4 hours every day various aspects of this exam. On weekends, you should devote 6 to 7 hours, right? So that should be the strategy for working person. Also remember, you have to keep on making the notes, right? So uh, because revision is very important, and you wouldn't be able to see the videos again and again. So try to make the notes once you see the videos. Yojana magazine, honestly speaking, I don't think that it is required for this exam. Better is to stick to newspapers. It's better if you add English for phase one, as its pattern is getting changed. We are not doing phase one preparation here as of now. So what we are doing is for English for phase two, right? English for phase one, I think, is pretty basic, right? If you are well versed with SBI level of English, then you are pretty sorted. So, for example, parajumbles, which in CAT is pretty vicious, is pretty straightforward in this exam. Even the reading comprehension is pretty straightforward. So is the closed test, or fill in the blanks. So all these are pretty straightforward. Okay. So we have last 9 minutes. If you have any questions, just tell us. Just type those questions. We would address them. Otherwise, we will close the session. I'll also like to inform that the cost of our course is 12,500. For next 2 days, we are running offers. We are providing the course at the price point of 9,999. You have to use a coupon code EARLY, right? EARLY, and you have to use it at prepper.co. Don't go to prepper.learnings.com. Just use prepper.co and enroll for the course. Right. Once you go there, you would see the link of the course, and you would be able to money, and we would enroll you at prepper.learnings from the backend. So there are few questions which have come up. How much cumulative score in phase two is required to clear the final cutoff? So phase two, finally they called for the interviews for the RBI called for all those who scored more than 176 for interviews, but you would require at least 190 plus to get the final call, because the final cutoff was around 225. To score around 30 marks or 35 marks in an interview, you require somewhere around 190 marks in written paper. How to maintain our confidence and motivation during preparation? So this is a very vicious question, how to maintain our motivation. So just look at, why are you preparing for RBI? Honestly, if you're preparing for RBI because your friend is preparing for RBI, then it would not motivate you. Just see that, why are you preparing for RBI? What motivates you in life? So RBI is not at all required. Honestly speaking, this is just any other exam, right? RBI job is just any other job. So if you see the context of RBI in your life, why RBI is important, what role would it play in your future, and how do you see yourself, let's say 5 years down the line, you will automatically be motivated, right? So try to maybe I would not say follow some strategy of a topper, because it would not help. Rather, follow your own strategy, see what motivates you, see what helps you in understanding the importance of this exam. Would you provide current issues with detailed notes? Yes, we do. How to visualize question type from news articles, considering objective? Just don't get into all this stuff that you want to visualize questions and all that stuff. Just make notes of all the facts and figures. Try to understand the crux of the news, the basic motivations of the news. Is there a separate course for English only? No, we don't have a separate course for English as of now. As I asked before about availability of face material, so I can read them. So we have our core offering is video course, but there would be few PDFs here and there which you can read during your office hours as well. So there would be definitely few PDFs. We would also provide you few cheat sheets which you can actually print and then read it at your own disposal. Yeah, earlier there was a course which was focused on numericals, but now since we are doing the entire video course, we would not have time and energy to actually entertain people for individual courses. How to manage preparation for SBI and RBI simultaneously? So SBI is essentially it's very easy, right? SBI would take care of your phase one preparation, right? So if you are preparing for SBI, you don't need to devote separate time for phase one. In the meanwhile, I think for SBI preparation is slightly overrated because of huge competition. There are around 20 lakh people writing this exam for 2,000 seats. So that's why the preparation is overrated. But if you are of reasonable intelligence, I think it would require somewhere around 3 to 4 months of dedicated preparation and just 1 to 2 hours of daily practice. So if you are doing that, you are not required to do anything else for RBI phase one. For phase two, definitely you require to start preparing from right now. So what you can do is you can start with NCERT's books and start looking at the basics, right? So start with NCERT's and start making notes out of them, right? That would help you. And then pick up any book for Indian economy. I'll also mail you my payment details. Please do help as soon as possible. So, all right. Uh, All right, so all of you who have made the payments, we would add you from the back end, so it would take us another half an hour to an hour to be able to access the course. What should be the daily study schedule? If I only have 2-3 hours are available and it includes phase one. Okay, this is important, right? You cannot leave phase one behind. You have to study for phase one. You have to practice English, quant, and DI. Ideally, so 2-3 hours per day, which means somewhere around if you are working for 5 days, let's say you are working for 6 days, so you have 16, 18 plus 26 hours per week. So out of these 26 hours, devote at least 6 hours for phase one preparation, right? For phase one, which means quant, reasoning, and verbal, devote at least 6 hours to that. Rest 20 hours you should devote between ESI and FM. Hope that would help you make a schedule for yourself. Already bought package by Sushil sir, not much satisfied with numerical part. Can you reintroduce? It's difficult for us to reintroduce the package because we have to take care of all those people who are enrolling for the full course, right? So it's very difficult for us to entertain these requests as of now. Is there any cutoff for the interview? No, there is no cutoff for the interview. Well, I mailed you for more details and even request you, okay, we'll revert on that mail. If you make a group of 5 or 6 people, then buy the course, then yeah, there would be discounts. So as of now, we are individuals can buy it for 10K. If you're buying in group of 5 or 6, since we are providing a service of essay checking, it is for each separate individual, right? And it is costing us too much, right? So we can provide an additional discount of 1,000 for all the 5 people. So the course will cost you 9,000. If you are if you're around 10 people, course would cost you around 8,000. So I think we are almost done. We just have 1 more minute. So if you have any other questions, just for 1 more minute, we can still talk. We would be having another session about RBI Grade B preparation for working professionals. That session would be taken by Ayush Sanghi. I think that would be scheduled on Monday. Then we would have live sessions on how to cover numericals in somewhere in the next week. So we would have series of these live sessions, which is open for all. Then we would have series of live session, which is only for our students. High-level numericals do not appear in this exam. They are very basic numericals, but as the exam evolves, there could be some high-level numericals as well, right? So suggest that you prepare yourself for slightly higher level of numericals as well. So the session for working professionals, Arun, would be on Monday, the same time, 10 to 11, right? It would cover the details so of how a working professional should go about preparing for the exam, right? A session on numericals would be taken by Piyush Anand. That session would be somewhere in on Wednesday or Thursday. Tushar would be taking a session on Saturday or Friday. Will convey the time. He would take session on how to improve English, particularly for phase one. Right. He would also give tips on phase two as well. So these are few free sessions. We would do few paid sessions as well. Sorry, a few sessions which are only for our paid students. So finally, it's time to wrap up. If you have any questions, you can drop me a mail. My mail ID, personal mail ID is gaurav.m10@fms.edu. I'll type it here. gaurav.m10@fms.edu. You can also type the mail, send us mail at prepper.edu@gmail.com. Right. You can also call us if required. Right. Uh, I hope the session is of use to you, and I hope that you are able to get something out of it. If there was any problems from my side, I apologize for all those problems, and I wish you all the best. Hope you fare well in life. RBI, just remember that RBI or no RBI, your life would go on. You would have a very fulfilled life. I wish that, even in your current jobs. And if you don't have any job, I suggest that take a job as soon as possible, because joblessness sets in a lot of frustration, right? A job, not just in banks. Try to skill yourself. Try to learn new things. Try to do freelance work and all that stuff. It would actually keep you motivated for future jobs as well. Right? Thanks, and we are signing off. Good night. All the best.